The game is going to consist primarily of moving army units on a board and capturing tiles, eliminating your enemies and placing your markers of control on their territory until they surrender or are annihilated. There's in game diplomacy and extra stuff, but that is the core of the game. The point of the game is to make your house not just the most powerful, as outlined on the victory chart, but also follow specific goals of your house in a given scenario. This game is not simply whoever has the most land or money. The objects players have are their units, four different types of them: footmen, knights, ships, and siege engines. You also have a house screen, which covers any of your items from being seen by other players, as well as having information on the back for reference. You have power tokens, which are in game currency and markers of control on the map. You also have order tokens, which are the moves you can make during a round. Finally, you have your character cards, all of the people of the house you are playing as in game. You are playing as the entirety of a house, such as House Stark or House Lannister, not just Tywin or Eddard or Catelyn. The board is divided into land and sea tiles, with a few different types of icons on them. Holding a tile with icons will give you certain bonuses. Barrels denote supply. Possessing more barrels means you can slide yourself higher on the supply chart. You may only have a certain amount of units in game, and that is determined by your supply. A crown is a bonus for obtaining power tokens. When you do the in-game power token collecting process, which we will cover soon, tiles with crowns on them will give more. Castles and fortresses are where you can build units when the time comes. Castles are worth 1 point, and fortresses are worth 2 points for the process of gaining new units. Lastly, ports are where you may build ships in the adjacent sea tile. The only other things on the map are rivers and mountains. Mountains are these black lines and they are completely impassable. Rivers may be passed only when there is a bridge. Here is what an average round will look like. A round will start with reading any cards for special effects during the round. Then, players will begin placing their order tokens face down on anywhere they have a unit. They may only place them where they have units. Everyone will do this simultaneously. You may not see other players' choices, hence them being face down. However, you do know where they have placed order tokens, so you can kind of predict their moves. Once all order tokens have been placed, the players will flip their tokens over and resolve all the moves. This is where most of the game content occurs, with the battles and supports and movements, etc., taking place. When that process is finished, with a few minor exceptions, the round will end, and you will prepare for the next round. Now let's take a look at what each of the order tokens do. Defense orders will give that tile a defense bonus during combat, whatever is printed on the token. Raid orders are very powerful. They will cancel any enemy order token that is adjacent to them, and can steal any enemy power token that is placed on land. The Consolidate power token, the one with the crown, will grant you one power token on a tile. However, as we discussed earlier, if you have a tile with a crown on it, you gain one plus however how many printed are on the tile. There are special order tokens in this game. All they are is better versions of regular order tokens, except for Consolidate Power, which has the special ability to spawn units in a castle or fortress tile. The March order is the keystone to this entire game. This is attacking and moving all in one. You may move all your units over one tile, or you may split them up. The purpose of ships in this game is to fight on sea and on coast, but they also have a unique ability. If you have ships in an unbroken line of tiles, you may march from one end of the ships all the way to the next with a single order. Finally, march order tokens allow you to battle. Simply march into an adjacent tile and the battle process will begin. We will go over the specifics of battling in a minute. Support orders are also very powerful. For as long as that round lasts, support orders will give their unit strength to a battle that's adjacent to the support token. Support tokens do not start battles, but intervene in active ones. Now let's finally get into battles. We have spoken a bunch about them, but how do they work? Your units have numerical combat values. Footmen are 1, knights are 2, ships are 1, and siege engines are 0. However, they are 4 when you are attacking a castle or stronghold. Battles ultimately are summing up who has the greater combat value from their units. This is where support comes in. Supporting units can give their combat value to a battle they are adjacent to. Finally, once the counting has been done, players will draw a character card at the same time, then add the effects of that character card to them. Characters have their combat value they add in the top left, and any bonuses for that round on the bottom. Finally, after all that is done, whoever has the higher amount wins. Only the losing side takes any penalties. Remember, supporting units do not get affected. And all of the losing units will have to retreat a tile and flip over. Because they are routed, they may not do anything until the next game round, where they are flipped over again. If cards have sword symbols, that is how many units the winner may kill in that battle before they retreat. If the loser has castles, they block swords used against them. All units will have 1 health, and the losing side chooses which units must be killed. That is the overwhelming majority of the game, but there is a bit more. As I mentioned earlier, you may only have as many units as your supply chart states. Even if your supply states you can have 2 armies of 2 units, you cannot have 4 units in a singular tile. They must be separated as they appear on the chart. Exceeding your supply limit at any point will cause you to destroy units to fit your supply, with 0 exceptions. However, you may have as many tiles filled with 1 singular unit as you would like, though it's not always the greatest idea. Finally, let's go over the tracks. There are 3 charts in this game. They will give you bonuses. At a certain point, players will wager on all these charts with their power tokens, so keep them available to spend. The Iron Throne chart. This is the in-game turn order, so it's pretty important. Number 1 spot gets to break any tie that has occurred in the game, including the very process of wagering on the Iron Throne and 2 other tracks. The next is the Fiefdoms track with the fancy Valyrian sword. This track determines who wins for ties in combat only. The rest is decided by the Iron Throne track. The holder of the Valyrian steel sword can once a round gain +1 on any of his combat. The final track is the King's Court track, aka the Messenger Raven. This is otherwise useless unless you are the top few people. Number 1 gains the Messenger Raven. They may once a round replace an order token of theirs, or look in the Wildling card deck ahead of time and replace the top card. Additionally, any area on the track that has a star is how many special order tokens you may use, which have stars printed on them. They are more powerful order tokens. Now for your houses in general. Characters are who you are trying to protect. You have a family tree provided to make things less complicated. By the end of the game, you want to get them all married and alive. You have some house characters who are not blood related to the house, such as the Mountain or Great John Umber. In order to marry, simply trade cards with other players to marry, or follow the marriage chart to marry NPC houses. You will have to attend weddings for NPC houses. Characters you have should be in 3 stacks. You can change them at the beginning of rounds. All they determine is where your characters are. Inside of your units, which means they'll be captured only when your entire army is killed. Inside of your garrison token, which means they'll be captured only when your garrison token is, which is almost always at your capital, but can attend weddings as well. Or in your dungeon, where enemy characters are held. Don't lose all your characters because then your house is by definition dead. Finally, characters may duel each other if they would like. Before a battle, both players can agree to duel with two characters. Whoever rolls the higher amount wins, though some characters will always roll a minimum number, which is printed on their chart. The outcome of this duel can give your battle bonuses, and the loser of the duel is captured. Now let's talk about other houses. Non-playable houses, or NPC houses, will remain static on the board, though you can marry them and vassalize them if you follow both of those charts. Combat with them will not be fun, so don't try it expecting them to be a pushover. Vassals are houses other players control. They can be gained by asking a neutral house or another player to become your vassal. Or they can be conquered or created from a previously conquered house and replaced with a new vassal. Vassals are treated no differently than playing as your own house, and you entirely control them except for who they marry. You must follow the chart for that. Vassals who are human players will entirely control everything within their game, except you can command them around and expect them to follow your orders, though they may not always listen. You can put your units and a vassal units in the same tile, but they have to follow their own supply. The best addition to this game that I've added is the fact that in the regular game, you can be killed early on and be completely out of the game. That will not happen now because at any point you can abandon all of your units and retreat to Essos or retreat to an allied player instantly with a few small units. You can then plot to retake your house just like the Targaryens. However, if you do manage to be killed, you start the game over as another house from your area, such as the Lannisters becoming the Marbrands, the Starks becoming the Boltons, the Tyrells becoming the Tarleys, etc. You can then have an entirely different game working with your former enemies, or maybe even plotting to rebel against them. That is the game right there. There might be a few other small caveats, but that is ultimately the entirety of the game right there.